Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today. Now I said my next video would probably be a Q&A video, but I'm still putting that one together so you can still leave some questions. And that one might come in the next day or two. But this, I have a huge mystery for you today in ancient America. And I think this is one of the most mysterious sites in the ancient US, period. Now my Ancient America series, I've made many videos since I think it was March I started this, and I'm nowhere near finishing. And now I'm just picking sites that I think are highly unusual, highly unique, and usually when I look at a site, I can come up with some sort of guess at what this story is, and there is so much still to be learned about ancient America, but really it wasn't about who was here, it was about who really wasn't here. It seems everybody was, and they laid their footprints across the ancient United States in many different areas. We're going to go down to Quecca Lake, I believe that is the name of it, in New York here in the Finger Lakes region. And I was looking around if anybody else had done a story on this, and I found an interview on Cliff Dunning's channel, and I will leave the link below, his Earth Ancients interview series. And I was on there last winter with Cliff, but I found the interview to be highly fascinating. Now this is Quecca Lake, and this place up here is called the Bluff Point Stoneworks. Now, when I looked into this, I had no answer, no clue, and this will rank in my top 10 most mysterious places in the ancient United States for sure, positively, because I have no clue. I can't even provide a guess here. Here is the bluff that these ruins are located on, and not much survives today. Below ground, I'm sure there is some traces of these stoneworks left today. Now I located the place on Google Earth where a diagram was done, and this is the diagram, and this is really strange, and let's just talk about this here. Here is a diagram done by an S. Art Wright, PhD, and he submitted a paper to the New York State Museum. A Mr. Wright's map here. East is this way, so he has this turned upside down. So that's what I did on Google Earth. But on this site here, some of the weirdest ruins ever found in the ancient United States. And then this was kind of lost to history, not much today, and kind of some apathy led to this site never being properly excavated, and this site being owned by private landowners. But here you see, this is what the site looked like, and I'm going to read, because the New York State Museum, the gentleman who surveyed this site in the late 1870s, wrote a report. This is the only site that I know of that we have stone monoliths. Here you see what looks like stone circles, but these graded roadways here are totally unique. Here he says a modern highway going through, and now that is Skyline Drive on Google Earth, but this is the area that these ruins were found in, and they still exist, some of them, right underneath the ground today. Now, this is the survey work that was submitted to the New York State Museum by Mr. Wright. He says this about the site. The accompanying diagram, Plate 14, represents an ancient work in the town of Jerusalem, Yates County, New York, and is on Bluff Point in lots 5 and 6 on the farm of Mr. Harris Cole. Bluff Point is high and rather sterile region lying between the two arms of Quecca Lake, its ridge being about 800 feet above the lake. This aboriginal work occupies about 7 acres of land extending from the highway on top of the ridge westward or toward the west arm of the lake, having a slight descent westward. The sedimentary shales and flags of the portage group are only 1 or 2 feet below the surface. It says the curious stone structures consist of graded ways, and that's the best term he can come up with, of from 3 to 8 feet wide, and now almost 1 foot high, and that's all that extended above the ground, with a vast number of large flat stones set in the ground edgewise on each side of the ways, the stones leaning towards the middle of these pathways, or what he calls graded ways. The indications are that these graded ways have never been over 2 feet high. All the areas between these ways are depressions in which water remains until evaporated, the nearness of the rock below often being only 12 to 14 inches, preventing its absorption. These areas, or many of them, contain bogs of carex and some grass, but in the summer they are dry and afford a fair pasturage. The dirt used to make the ways has been taken from these areas, causing these depressions. The rock beneath, no doubt at the time completely laid bare and furnished the flat stones that they are set on each side of the graded ways. All that portion of the work in lot number 6 has never been plowed, and the ways are easily traced when the grass has been removed. Those lying in lot number 5 have been destroyed, but are traced from the quantity of small fragments of stone still on the surface. I have not been able to find any relics in this work, which is one of the strangest structures in the state. I find nothing similar to it figured in any way on archaeology. What were these graded ways or graded pathways? They were perched up, built up like a foot, with rocks that were laid on their sides and then slanted inward. And there's only one pic I can really show you here. This is from an article, a story on an article written in 1879. But here you can see, imagine these stones are as big as maybe a folded newspaper, and they are put on their side, and then they are leaned inward, and then there are flat stones put on top of them. And what the purpose of these were, well, that's a huge mystery. There were post holes. Some people theorize that these were dwelling areas. Some of these pathways were 500 feet long. Now, the Iroquois Nation, they say we had absolutely nothing to do with this. They existed in this area maybe 3 times as long as the United States has been a country. But they say they had nothing to do with this. No artifacts left here for offerings from the tribes. Were the mound builders the Adena? And I showed some works up near Auburn, New York that are really strange. Do they have anything to do with this? Well, that would be totally unique to them. We have monoliths, it seems. We have stone circles here. This is very strange. Who built this? Well, we have a whole list of candidates. Also, there was no bodies found here. Seems the stone was only like 12 or 14 inches below the dirt here in the area. So that made it really hard to bury people. Was this all a big stone city at one time? That's pretty weird. Now, there is no video or pics to go along with this story except for just a few here. But I think it is important to read the initial account here. This comes from November 27th, 1879, and this was written by Berlinwright. Now, this survey was done by a father and son team, and this was published in 1879. It says, in the spring of 1880, while making a geological survey of Yates County in the company of my father, Samuel Hart Promontory, known as Bluff Point, extending into Quecca Lake and separating the east and west branches of the lake, was surveyed. The highway from Branchport to Bluff Point Post Office to the end of the points cuts through the middle of the site, which is at an elevation of approximately 600 feet above the lake. The original ruin covered some 14 acres, according to the owner of the property, Howard Hemphill, who had lived there for 50 years. The portion of the ruins east of the road was a cultivated field at the time of our survey, but the locations of the continuations of the walls still standing on the west side could easily be followed in the plowed ground. Mr. Hemphill said he had dug out stones that had been in the walls east of the road to use in building his house, and some of the larger slabs have been hauled to the end of the point for the great Wagner house. This fact was later confirmed in a conversation which the writer had with its builder, Mr. Sullivan, in Florida in 1883. Mr. Hemphill was an aged man, and at the time of our survey, though his mind was clear, he said he came to the farm as a young man when the Indians were all about. In answer to a question put to one of the old Sachems as to the origin and use of the ancient ruins, he had been informed that it was there when their earliest tribesmen first came to this region. No tradition as to its origin has been handed down from the earliest generations of their tribe, and we must credit the Indians with keeping alive their historical matters of interest in this way with great fidelity, having no other method of recording events of importance. We surveyed the ruins and are here showing a ground plan of the walls in special groups. At that time, an earnest plea was made to stated authorities for the preservation of this unique remnant of a great aboriginal structure. However, nothing came of it, and all is gone. So obviously there was pleas made to the state of New York on preservation of this strange ruin, and none was made. It says the remains of the ancient structure consisted of the foundation of walls in a form of graded ways 3 to 8 feet wide and 1 to 2 feet high, bordered with a vast number of large flat stones set in the ground edgeways. These stones leaning inward towards the center of the ways. At points of intersection of some of the walls, depressions indicated posts had been standing there at one time, evidently supporting a roof. The size of the compartments or rooms seem to have been proportioned to the amount of soil available for their interiors for the building of partitions. These dividing foundations were also wide and narrow according to the amount of dirt, and then there's a question mark. Where the soil was deep, the rooms were large and the walls wide. The dimensions of a structure, some of which were over 500 feet long. So he's saying there were structures 500 feet long, possibly there, were laid out with squares and some in arcs, reminding one of Stonehenge in England, also of unknown origin. At the northwest corner was a huge monolith standing as a lone sentinel guarding the community. This great slab pointed at the top. So there was a big monolith pointed at the top, kind of like an obelisk. Is that what I'm reading? Pointed at the top and about 3.5 feet wide at the base, was fully 8 feet high. All about among the standing slabs were prostrated ones, more or less, covered by soil. Now, the more I read about this, just the stranger it got. A monolith, that's totally unique to ancient America, with a pointed top, 8 feet high. And the dimensions of this, probably, Wayne, my guesstimate, maybe 18 tons, something like that. But seems we had stone circles. We had maybe post holes that were supporting roofs of structures that were 500 feet long. That is a theory. What this place was, who built it, no clue. Seems we have stone circles. Some of these rooms had like ancient maze in it. Some of them were totally burned, and they figure it was like a crematorium. That is just speculation. When these stones were removed, it was described that they made depressions in the land. And the way these were built, these stone graded ways, I think these were built above ground at one time, and then time and sedimentation just kind of filled in around them. So when these stones were removed, they actually created depressions. So I think this place is really, really ancient. That is just my assumption. The way this is described, though, with these stones removed and these depressions, I thought this was an excellent thing for me to snoop around on Google Earth and maybe show these ruins for the first time on a YouTube video. There are interviews, and I will leave the links to a few of these describing these ruins, and there are only a few on YouTube. Now here is the division between Lot 5 and 6, and what I really wanted to find here was places that were not plowed because of ancient stonework, and it was pretty easy to find a site right here, right away. But here on Google Earth, near the division of the property line, you can clearly see remnants of the stone wall coming out here, and he doesn't want to plow this area because of the stone wall. And it comes down here even further, probably. And here is an area that doesn't want to be touched either. Probably stoneworks right underneath here. That's my guess. Now on Google Earth here, the way these stone graded ways were built and how sediment kind of laid on top of them, there's going to be different stuff growing in different areas, and you can kind of see here lines in the earth here And this will be an assignment for you people who like to use Google Earth. Go back on the historical view. You can actually get a real good look at some of the outlines of these graded ways that are still visible today, even though they lie under the earth. Stuff will grow differently, and in different periods here, you can see perfect geometric shapes grown here by what lies on top of this God knows how old ancient stonework today. I think this is a huge mystery. Who is building these graded ways? Who is putting up a monolith over 8 feet high and probably weighed over 15 tons? Stone circles. I think this place is very mysterious, very weird. Remnants today still seen on Google Earth if you look really hard. And you see down here at the bottom, he has a better diagram of these graded ways. And I will leave the link below. But these stone circles here, any remnants of those. And remember, top of the screen is south. So if we go back to Google Earth, I'm just wondering right here, if the turn was down here, I see a lot of big stones, or what appears to be big stones right here. I just wonder if those are remnants of something ancient here. But some of the bigger stones obviously were not hauled away. You can see a lot of stuff right under the ground. This is Coeca Lake in New York, and it's kind of a Y here. The lake splits, and then on the promontory between the two arms of the lake, that's where the ruins lay today, probably right under the earth. And I want to talk about something real briefly here. At the outlet here by Penyan, that's the name of the little town, in the same museum report that this guy put in 1879, right by the mouth of this outlet, what did he describe here? Stone standing circles. Today, totally lost to time and memory. He clearly designates this area by the outlet of the lake here. On the eastern side of the stream, there was standing stone circles. But who created these ruins called the Bluff Point stoneworks? Well, there are a lot of theories. Was it the Phoenicians? The Minoans? Was it the mound builders? That doesn't quite make sense. It would be too unique for them. Were the Egyptians here? Were the Vikings here? Were the Templars here? Well, any one of those theories has been brought up, and that's where you guys are going to come in. I'd love to hear your thoughts. This place is highly mysterious. We have one mound builder location up here in Auburn for sure that I have featured, but this doesn't seem to be anything like that. This appears to be very unique to ancient America, highly mysterious. Is this remnants of some lost civilization that we have not put our finger on? Well, anything's possible here. I'd love to hear your comments. Hope you thought this was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.